Howdy, welcome to Texas, and here we are for a setup around Circuit of the Americas. Well, in the USA, of course, one of the three US calendars on the US tracks on the calendars, my words. And here we are for a setup guide and track guide. As always, it will be setup guide at the first few minutes ish. If you want to skip to the track guide, you can always go down to the timestamps and you can just jump around and do whatever you want with that, right? So let's get into the setup real quick. Around COTA, you want to be using, well, as you can see, a lot of downforce. The reason is very simple. Sector 1 is full of acceleration zones, high speed corners, and also in sector 3 you have a lot of slow speed corners and also some high speed corners here and there. And in general, having high downforce around here is going to help you out with your overall lap time. And straight line speed, it's not really a concern when it comes to the back straight, because if you are able to follow someone closely through sector 1 and close enough with DRS, you can easily save all your battery with high downforce. And in sector 3 you're going to be able to follow them closely as well. Tire wear is pretty pretty prominent around here, and the tires do melt quite quickly, so you're going to be having a setup that is really good on the tires. You don't want to be spinning your rears a lot, you don't want to be scrubbing your fronts either, so that's going to be something you have to take in mind when it comes to your driving in the race. So with that, we have 44, 39 on the wings. You can go 45, 43, whichever you feel is balanced for your liking. You may find less downforce on the front might be just a little bit more balanced for you, maybe more. Play with that and you'll find your sweet spot. So this is not like the perfect setup, this is for me, but it's made for more generic purposes where everyone can reuse this as a baseline. Now, transmission, 55 on throttle. Well, no secret about this really. So you're gonna be using this all the time, all the tracks. Like I say, it's like a sweet spot for all tracks, all conditions. You can use 50 when it's in the high speed corners, like in sector 1 in the SS, and also the triple right-hander in sector 3, where you want the car just to keep rotating without understeering, having a little bit lower on throttle through your MFD. That will help you out actually. Otherwise you can keep it at 55. It's just drivable on all tracks, all conditions. Maybe 60 coming out of the hairpins here, maybe in turn 1 and then before the back straight and after the back straight, those 3 slow corners. Probably you can use 60 if you want, just to get a little bit better traction here. And off throttle, generally around 50, 51, 52, 53 even is the sweet spot. Here I found it for qualifying. 50 is just nice. It allows the car to rotate quite nicely with high downforce here. And in the race, 51 or 52 is equally good. So do as you please. If you want the car to be more stable, slight less under braking, less chance of locking up, you can always go 52 or 53. Otherwise 51 or 50 is also usable in the race. Suspension geometry, minimum camber, minimum toe, like this is always the way to go. It's the simplest way to set up your car and as good as it gets. There's not much you can find from the suspension geometry. It's more of like diminishing returns as you try to fiddle around with this. Maybe you can help with your car handling, with your car balancing issues. It may help you to be more stable or more pointy in certain corners, but you're not going to find like a tenth or two just from adjusting this, unless you're at, I don't know, esports level or close to esports. So that's definitely going to help you. Suspension, magical suspension, as always I like to say. Now I'll show you what was in the world record setup and what I've done to change accordingly. So originally it was ... like this, right? 28 on the front suspension, quite soft than the usual. This allows the car to be a lot more agile. The front of the car wants to turn into a corner in slow speed, in high speed as well, but this can cause you to be a little bit unstable on the exits, right? Because your front is still sticking to the ground, it's closer to the ground, and that's going to cause you a little bit of instability when you are trying to exit a corner, get a good traction out of corners. So what I've done is, well, keep experimenting with it, go up a click or two at a time, and I was like, well, you know what, 41 seems to be just nice around here anyway, right? So use this. You can feel a lot more balance in the corners here when you try to throw the car into the corners in the S section. It doesn't feel like the car wants to snap on you or, you know, suddenly lose stability. So that's a good sign that your car is responding well to your setup change. For the rear suspension, I've reduced it to 5 actually, just to help with a little bit more traction. It helps, you know, even 1 or 2 clicks, you can notice the difference sometimes in these setups. So that's why I always recommend going in 1 or 2 clicks at a time when you make changes. So 5 on the rear suspension, even 4 was also nice, but I preferred 5. Just, you know, minute details here. So 5 was just good. And, you know, since you're lowering the rear suspension, you're making it softer, it may be prone to, you know, oversteering or bottoming out under acceleration. So to counter that off, I've increased my rear ride height to 39. You can also use 38, which is equally good. I found it. It's just a matter of preference. If you want to have sort of more pointiness on the front, then you can have more rake. If you want to just play around with the brakes, rotate under the brakes, more stable on exits, 38 will be the way to go. And then front anti-roll bar, it was on 6. I reduced it to 5 just because you know, I made the setup a little bit more stable elsewhere, so I needed to get back some rotation from somewhere. So I've softened the front anti-roll bar just by 1 click. You will notice that the lower you go on the anti-roll bar on the front, you will get a lot more rotation, let's say not rotation, a lot more oversteery feeling on exits of slower corners. Whereas when you go higher, you get more understeery feeling on the exits of slower corners. Try that out, and you can, you know, play around with this to fine-tune your setup. Rear anti-roll bar, I will definitely recommend this leaving at 1. There's no point going any higher than 1 here because there's a lot of slow corners, and there's not really an abundance of high-speed corners like, I don't know, Qatar or Spain, where you will benefit from going any higher on the anti-roll bar. Plus, you have a lot of downforce on the car, so that is going to do majority of your work to get the car stabilized and rotated in the corners. So next up is the brakes. 100% brake pressure. You know, any lower you can uninstall the game. Just kidding though. But you know, just run 100%. It's the best performance you can get out of your car. Brake bias though, 53 on most of the corners is just nice. 54 you can use it in heavy braking zones if you're in time trial. But if you're going into a Grand Prix mode or career mode race, even in multiplayer race, you want to be using 54 as the lowest in high speed corners, you know, where you just need to dab the brakes. 55 or 56 for heavier braking zone, because the grip conditions are slightly different in a real session, plus tire wear is involved. So you may want to preserve your rears, you may preserve your fronts, you can adjust your brake bias accordingly. And then tire pressures, start off with minimum. I will definitely say minimum is the safest way and best way to go around here. The tires melt quite quickly in COTA. A lot of high speed corners, they stress out the tires quite a lot. Even the mediums and hard tires, they wear out quite quickly in the race. So you want the downforce to help you with preserving the tire wear first of all, and then you want to lower the tire pressures just so they don't overheat and degrade that way. Otherwise, if you can deal with some extra temperatures, you want the tire temperature to be slightly higher within the operating range, you can go with this. 5 clicks on the front, 3 clicks on the rear, and voila, that is a setup around COTA. Now, one thing that's always been requested is, what do I do if it's raining, right? So if it's going to be raining, it's very simple. You have your setup, whatever it is. For COTA, for example, just max out the front wing, that's +6, and do the same for the rear, and you'll be a happy man or happy woman driving around in COTA without having to worry about spinning out on the track. There you go. That's the only thing that you really need to change here. If you have park permit disabled, sorry, so you can change your setup throughout the session. I will definitely recommend going 1 click higher on the front ride height and at least 1 or 2 clicks higher on the rear ride height. So this will allow your car to be a lot more stable. First of all, it sits higher, that it clears the water easily. Plus, with having a bit more rake, it allows the car to rotate in the slower speed corners. So that's a handy nugget there for you. Hopefully you love this setup, and I will see you in the next one. If you had to say goodbye now, well, goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one. If you have stayed till this far, let's go into the track guide around Circuit of the Americas, and let's see how do we tackle a lap around this beautiful track. Now I will say I used to hate this track because, well, skill issues back then, but over the years as we've driven this track in many series, many different games, I think there's a nuance here. Braking and acceleration, carrying good amount of cornering speed, you know, the basics here. If you nail those, you're going to be finding any track enjoyable. So let's see how you can enjoy Texas. Now here you can see magical thing. You want to be lining up the exit as widely as possible, and you know, get on power as quickly as possible while straightening out the steering wheel. As you can see here, I'm rotating, turning the car, and then while I'm going on power, I'm straightening out the steering so that, you know, the front is pointing forward, and that gives you more stability on exit, right? So this is something you have to keep in mind. Do this for qualifying because this is easily going to give you half a tenth down this straight itself. So if you're finding for half a tenth or something on your lap time, well, you probably missed this. This will be your best chance of getting a free half a tenth even. And then you can avoid the curb on the exit or take it, doesn't matter, as long as you get a straight exit. DRS will be activated quite early, and stay to the right hand side here because, well, there's no really need of going to the left, right? It's a left-hander uphill, so here you want to be braking right as you, well, if you're using braking lines, well, use it for whatever reason. Now on track, if you're using no racing lines, you have two braking references here. One is the black box on the right hand side as you pass that, or as you're about to hit this white line on the pit exit. As you're about to hit this, maybe just 5 meters, 10 meters before it, you brake in a straight line, heavy braking. I don't like to take the curb in this game, mounting the curb on the braking zone, because it tends to unsettle the car. So I just prefer to avoid it altogether. You may find some time, but it's a little bit inconsistent, especially with, you know, unequal cars still being a bit bugged on curbs. So brake in a straight line, down to 4th gear, and then 3rd gear for the entry into the next corner. So here is pretty much as close as we could get to the apex. You don't want to be too tight, you don't want to be touching the curb, otherwise it unsettles the car on the exit. So there's a million lines that you can actually take here in the race, in qualifying as well, while battling with someone. But you know, we're talking about qualifying, this is the way you want to be taking it. As tight as you can without touching the curb, and then on the exit, start opening up the steering once again, apply power and straighten out the car before you go full power here. So you can see here we are slightly on the curb here, but we're not fully on the curb, so this is still okay. It will not spin out the car if you are gentle on the throttle here. And then if you are sort of wider on the left hand side, that's okay as well. You can cut back in, and for the next corner here, the start of the S section, you want to be pretty tight on the curb here, but don't go over it because sometimes it can unsettle the car. So just ride the curb here just a little bit, that's just nice. And well, you can see not going any more over it. And then bring the car somewhat to the middle of the track here, and all the next left-hander is sort of blind. You have to be looking out for a turning point here. My best turning point is as soon as I hit the end of the bridge here. It's on top of my vision here. So, or there's a right board here, or when I exit the pedestrian bridge, the, you know, the staircase, you know, whichever it comes to your peripheral, use that. And then plus a bit of muscle memory as well from practicing, so you will know where to turn in. So tight on the entry, but not too tight. This sausage sometimes can throw you off in the race, so you can risk it in qualifying, that's okay. Tight on the left, and then you're still flat out here. Tight on the right here. For qualifying, in the race you just have to downshift and lift to 6th gear, that will be fine. And then here also in qualifying, you can stay in 7th, or you can just rev it out in 6th gear. That's also going to help you. So I'm downshifting to 6th gear just so I can prepare the next right-hander. Now all of this is not going to work if you don't get a proper turn 3 here. Was it turn 3? Yeah. If you miss the apex on this corner, it's going to ruin your momentum throughout the rest of the S section. So make sure you nail the first part, second part correctly. Third part, it starts to get tighter and trickier. So play with the track limits. As you can see here, we are right on the cusp of invalidating here, but this is just on track here. Touching the curb as well, not really advisable for race, but in qualifying you can do it. And then here as well, there's a million different lines. Like I say, in COTA you can mount the entire inside curb, run wide on the exit, or you can do like what I'm doing, somewhere in the middle of the circuit, bring it back over slightly over the curb, and then stay somewhere in the middle to the track, and then cut back in for the next part here. Now where do you cut in? Well, it's again going to be sort of some practicing required, some muscle memory, but as soon as I reach that yellow Pirelli board on top, that's where I just downshift, turn right, and this allows me to place the car more to the right hand side here. So, and as you can see, the left-hander is also pretty tight, so you want to open up the left side entry by being tighter on the right, a bit wider on the right hand side here. So keep the car to the right, and right as you hit this this green AstroTurf-ish area on the outside, that's where I downshift and turn into the corner. In the race you have to downshift. In qualifying, if you have a pre-pointy setup, you can just throw the car in with 5th gear and that should stick. And tight on the entry as well, so that you can open up the exit of the S section. So again, it is very technical, this sector 1, but if you nail it easily, 4 or 5 times is going to be there for you compared to your worst lap time probably. Now somewhere to the middle of the track, or ideally you want to go as left as possible. In the race and qualifying session there may be marbles, so you want to stick somewhere in the middle of the track. And then brake in a straight line, just dab on the brakes a little bit, downshift to 4th, and then bring the car gently over onto the curb here. And you can see, yeah, we are just riding on the track limits here. So let's ride on board from the rear. You can see we are riding on the curb like a skateboard, and then you just want to be gently on power here. You can't go 100% just yet. You'll probably be floating around 50, 60, 70% throttle. Keep the car straight, and then on the exit here, this left-hander, you can cut a bit of it without going too much over that sausage, and keep it straight, keep turning. Play with the track limits once again on the exit, otherwise you're not going to gain the optimal time here. Now that is pretty much the end of sector 1 alone, which is going to be the bulk of your time here in sector 1. If you nail it, you're going to gain a lot of time. You're going to be easily within someone's DRS range if you can follow them nicely. On to the next part, which is sort of the easier part here. Stay tight to the left here, it gains you a few thousands before you run up to the hairpin entry. Now stay to the right here. There's also possibilities that you can mount the curb on the entry here to you can see here we are just on the line here, we're not going any further. So if you want to mount the curb any more than this, that's alright. I just don't like to touch the AstroTurf on this game and in this track particularly. So this is okay. Brake around 75 meters and then brake in a straight line and brake down to 4th gear initially, and then 3rd gear for the entry into the corner. You can take this in 2nd in the race, but make sure to upshift up to 3rd gear quickly to prevent some extra wheel spin. So we missed the apex a bit. You can see here it's a bit lazy to turn in. That's because it's a race-ish setup. But on the exit we still get a decent exit. We straighten out the car quite quickly, and you can mount the curb on the exit again. Like I say, I don't want to do that. It doesn't feel easy to drive that way. And keep it straight, DRS wide open, stay tight here to the right hand side, just follow this white line, and then into the next braking zone here, you're going to be looking right in between the 150 and 100 meter board. There's a blue board on the right hand side, on the top right, the MSC Cruisers board. You can use that as a braking reference as you pass that in your vision, or there's also a yellow crane on the left hand side, as you can see here. And as soon as that goes out of your vision, that's where you start braking 100% on the brakes. Brake in a straight line here. I don't like to take the curb again. Just take a little bit of this white and yellow red and white curb. That's enough, I suppose. And then brake down to 4th gear, and then down to 3rd gear for the corner entry. you can cut a lot of this corner here. You can cut a lot more than what I did, probably a few more centimeters to the left, and that's still going to be valid. This is just good enough for the qualifying and the race, I feel, within the track limits, and it's not too unsafe. You know, sometimes it may unsettle the car over that sausage. On the exit though, it's important for you to, you know, start accelerating as soon as possible and straighten out the car. You may have to ride on the exit curb here to, you know, gain a bit of time and reposition your car to the left hand side immediately after this. So you want to bring your car over to the left here. You can see there's an orange marker here on the left. In the race, that's a good braking marker. In the qualifying, it's slightly after that, so you'll have to get used to it. And then brake in a straight line, you just have to tap on the brakes just a little bit. You don't have to go 100% on the brakes. Down to third gear, again, the car's a little bit lazy here to turn in, but we still managed to maintain a good-ish momentum throughout the corner here. You can see, let's see from the outboard shot here. So it turns in. You can be tighter on the entry and open up the exit, or you can be wider on the entry and, you know, straighter on the exit. Again, million different lines here. Straighten out the car, and then you can even upshift to fourth here quite early to reduce the wheel spin if you need to, and then just let the car roll, let the car's momentum carry around, and bring the car over to the right hand side as quickly as possible here. So before you enter the next triple right hander, it's important to nail this corner entry and exit. So there's a, if you see on the road here, there's a little bit of a discolored or, like, you know, broken up or cut out road section here. You can use that as a reference, or the start of that the exit road on the right hand side, or as the left hand side curb ends. I prefer to use the left hand side curb as it ends because I'm trying to spot the next apex. At the same time, I can also use this as my entry reference, right? So you're going to be braking about half or more than half, but you want to trail off the brakes, reduce the brake pressure as you're turning in more and more. Third gear is just nice. You can take it in second also. Upshift to third though if you are going on the exit, and try to avoid accelerating on the curb because it unsettles the car. It doesn't give you the best traction. And third gear, fourth gear, keep on the power here. You're already flat by this time, and you want to stay somewhere in the middle of the track here. And I kind of drifted a little wider here, but that doesn't matter, I suppose. It may gain you a few thousandths here. Stay in the middle of the track, and this triple right hander, again, it's important to nail in the race and qualifying. There's going to be marbles, so you want to be taking that ideal AI kind of line, just so, you know, you don't lose grip on your front tires with the marbles. In time trial, you can, you know, just yeet it wherever you want. Stay somewhere in the middle of the first part, bring it back closer to the second apex here, and then for the third one also, you're just about hugging the apex here. And then you want to bring back the car, whichever line you take, right? Basically, you want to make sure you are able to reposition the car to the right hand side around here before you take the next left hander. Important to carry the momentum. Alright, so white line as you pass that, or there's a black part of the board on the right hand side, that is my braking reference. As I hit that, I start to brake in a straight line, down 2 gears to fifth, and take a lot of this inside curb here. And it doesn't unsettle the car too much, but if you're afraid of it, you can just take a safer line and avoid it. But it will gain you time on the exit if you nail it correctly. And power out of the corner as soon as you can, as much as you can. Play with the track limits once again, and then into the final corner, you want to be braking right around this white line. So just before you hit the white line, or you hit the black box on the right hand side, that will be your braking reference. Or as you hit the Qatar board on the left hand side, as that goes into or out of your vision, that's where you want to start braking in a straight line down to third gear and throw the car into the corner here and accelerate gently but as soon as you can out of the corner to gain some time on the exit. And on the exit, you can use the curb a little bit if you want to, or you can just stay off the track, off the curb. And that is a lap around COTA. Oof. Very technical but very beautiful once you start nailing the sequence of corners. So I definitely encourage you to practice this, take a break maybe in between after half an hour, 1 hour sessions, and come back again and see if you made any improvement just by relaxing. So yeah, that is gonna be a setup guide and a track guide around Circuit of the Americas here in Texas, USA. See you on track this weekend for the USA GP. I mean, I'm not going there, but just saying as in general. See you on track. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and have a good weekend. Bye bye.